Bro, I'm having so much fun, bro, as you can see. It's so fun, bro. You know what would also be more fun? Is that if I get ganked by the enemy jungler right now, bro. That would be so fun, man. Like, that would be... I mean, that can happen as well. Like, despite the fact this champ is really disgusting, but the player is really good as well. Like, I can't just hinder the... Am I dead here, by the way? No, I missed my E. Oh, really? Oi. Oi. Oi.
Yo everyone, and welcome to a new video. Today we have another one in the series where I face a well-known opponent. In this one I'm facing Geishuu, one of, if not the best Sett player in the US server. So a very formidable foe that I have nothing but respect for. In this video I'll go in depth on how the matchup is supposed to work and how Aurora side ideally is supposed to be played, in terms of mindset, decisions, and execution. As always, I hope you enjoy. The matchup is fully skill dependent in general, but the execution plays a huge role. There are 3 important things to keep in mind as the Aurora player. 1. Early on you need to find a good middle ground between harassing him and at the same time spacing him, so knowing how much his reach is crucial. Second, using your E buffering capability to create space on his own E and in general on his movement goes a long way. And last but not least, don't let him cancel your W with your E or ultimate ability. This one is very important since it's the easiest one to mess up. Look to use your W before Sett's abilities or after. If you play around these 3 points and your opponent doesn't find openings in your defense, the matchup won't feel that difficult. Now, going into the action, I found some very good trades, so now I'm looking to zone my opponent off of XP. I'm splitting my focus on both the minion health and trying to not let the Sett get too close. Every time I notice he steps up too much, I look for poke on him. Sadly, in this case I missed my ability, so couldn't punish him too much. He was actually able to find a very good trade back onto me using his W. He was able to predict that I would dodge under. Then the next wave arrived, so even though he's on cooldown, trying to look for a trade right now is really awkward. Now is a good time to start playing with the wave. Always ask yourself what is the best possible position that favors you. In this case, both a freeze on my side or a slow push towards the opponent are good. In this case, I hit the wave a bit too much for my liking, so freezing is off the table. But he overstepped a bit too much, so I was able to put him pretty low due to electrocute. And yeah, right there he misused his W, meaning that if he steps up right now, I'll look to potentially flash on him. The key to getting a flash kill with Aurora is knowing when exactly to use it. The higher you go in elo, the more people will expect it. Make sure your opponents feel like you're not going to do it, so they're comfortable stepping up. Or mind control them, whichever method you prefer. Jokes aside though, there was actually a reason why I chose to flash at this exact moment. I knew that my opponent had no W, and I knew that he needed exactly 1 minion to get level 3. And also made sure to flash exactly as my electrocute is coming back up. Yeah, it was a pretty tight window to pull this off. Once you're able to find the solo kill on your opponent, everything becomes much easier, at least during the laning phase. I followed the same game plan of poking and spacing until I got him pretty low under his tower. I managed to find some very good trades, and I know that I'll hit ult on this wave, so I'll look to potentially set up a dive, especially because he just used his W. Now, I wasn't exactly sure on his W cooldown, but I knew that it doesn't hurt trying to kill him since he can't really retaliate without his ult. In this case, I was only able to get his flash, but that is more than sufficient for me since I can use this timer to go back and teleport. By teleporting right now, I'm putting him in the worst possible position. He's forced to stay on low HP, no flash, and me threatening a freeze. So for him, there's not much to do honestly besides his jungler to come and bail him out. Or alternatively, he could just accept his fate and recall, which is not ideal. It's a lose-lose situation, but that's the top laner's life. Also, I know my jungler's topside, so even if Nuno ends up being around to help him out, we always win the 2v2 as long as I stall for him to show up. And eventually we did go for a gank, but sadly we didn't have enough juice to finish him off since we weren't patient enough for him to step up. While not finding a kill here isn't the end of the world since Sett did get zoned off quite a bit of minions, I could have done all of this myself without the Wukong's help. So my jungler did end up falling a bit behind because of this. The next step of the operation is to continue my freezing spree, making Sett lose as many minions as possible while he's gone. I kept this up for a while until eventually I got some good trades onto him and was looking to slow push and maybe turning it into another dive. But I opted not to do it. The reason is we had no information on Nuno and there was a high likelihood of him being topside, as grubs are the only objective that are about to spawn. Also, my jungler is nowhere near topside, so recalling is for sure the best option currently. And this is the part of the game where everything was looking really grim. My team was losing everywhere, including their sanity, and the only lane that's actually doing something is top lane, so I knew I had to lock in if we're gonna win this. A few minutes later, my jungler wanted to do another top gank, so I looked to set it up. A very important thing to note here is that none of us should go behind him because he would just use his ult to go back to safety. After a bit of fighting, he accepted his death, so he went for the minions, which was honestly pretty smart. Afterwards, me and Wukong got some plates, and after taking the wave, we were looking to recall. But Sett wanted to interrupt us, so we decided that going for a dive is the best way to repay him. Yeah, this game was very chaotic to say the least. Eventually though, Sett showed up, who I personally wasn't scared of at all since I knew he couldn't finish me off, but I can't say the same for Wukong. I was able to escape, and this is where most people would call it quits, but not me. Seeing how much damage I dealt him with my first combo, I waited for him to push the wave and looked to assassinate him while he's recalling, but he chose a very weird spot to channel it and caught me completely off guard. And this is where disaster struck. I was expecting Sett to make an attempt to dive me, so I positioned my camera to the left, but he went all the way around, and yeah. Fair play. Right afterwards, I ended up teleporting and the opponent Sett overstayed, so I started fishing for a potential lethal on him. I just got my first item, meaning that I hit like a truck. I saw how much damage I dealt to him, so I decided to pull the trigger full on. He was pretty deep in the lane, so make sure you acknowledge when you can run someone down. But at the end of the day, due to Sett's W and the fact that he's a bruiser, I had to hit all of my abilities to actually be able to finish him off, which I didn't. In any case though, this sets me up for a dive. That was the last time, I promise. I saw the opponent jungler mid lane and I knew that this was my time to look for another solo play. Pay attention on how I do it though. I don't get overzealous. I make sure that he's bleeding CS, not actually greeding to dive him, since he can easily outplay me with his ult and his W if I get too close. I'm applying pressure and I'm making sure he can't step up safely, and any ability I land on him will probably give me enough to finish him off. Eventually though, he got very sick of me doing it. I use my own need to predict his and create space even if he stuns me. Here, again notice how I play around his ult range after I go in with W. I knew that his only play is to try and CC me with it. And then of course the Nunu gank, but it was too late. A bit after, we had one more interesting 1v1. In this case, we traded some HP and cooldowns. I ended up backing off, my ult is up soon so I can for sure fish for something. Of course, I do what every range top does and play with the bushes. I waited a bit until he eventually stepped up. The most important thing here is to play with my Q and my range and hold my E for when I need it. He turned around and honestly caught me off guard because he led the engage with ult and not E. Luckily for me, I still had my flash, so I was able to avoid his 100 to 0 true damage combo. And right after, I was able to get his tower, putting me in a very good position to carry this game. As we're entering mid game, the best thing I can do to be impactful currently is to walk through mid lane. This allows me to go anywhere I deem to be the focal point at the given time. In this case, I saw a lot of action happening, specifically the enemy team trying to be aggressive onto my team, which meant it was the perfect time for me to shadow them. Already as I showed behind them, I was able to scare off the Zed, and my Wukong found a very good engage onto the Misfortune. With his two allies out of the picture, I chased down Nautilus. Right after, I actually decided to stay bot side. Main reason is top wave is still pushed towards the enemies, my TP is on cooldown, and Herald is up. Seeming as the Nunu didn't show anywhere on the map, he's most likely there, and it's very sketchy to try and push the wave even further. I decided to shadow Yon for a bit since I can't really make a move without knowing who's where from the opponents. In this case, I saw Sett sitting on low HP and decided to make a move. I went in for the kill, but sadly as I did that, Yon also picked up a fight with Zed right behind me, which I couldn't really be a part of due to me already committing. In hindsight, if I was faster with my realization, I should have actually preserved my ult and I should have dropped trying to kill the Sett and instead helped Yon. So that's honestly my bad. Right after my next base, I immediately walked towards mid lane again given the current map state. I don't need to be inside if there's nothing pressuring it, and honestly that benefits my champion a lot. Aurora strives for team fighting, especially fights in which the opponents walk into her. And there's a very big chance for that to happen because the opponents being as head as they are, they will probably force situations onto my weaker members, meaning that I need to prioritize being at the right place at the right time since I can match their strength. In this case, my team was able to win by themselves, so nothing I just assumed would happen, happened, but on average, as behind as my teammates were, they shouldn't really be winning. Even if they lost though, I would be there to win the situation, and there was basically no downsides to this line of play since I can catch the top wave with my teleport. Now I have a lot of free time to get a lot of minions on the side lane, of course being extra careful to not get collapsed on. After a reset, of course I get back to my usual game plan of playing with my team. This is the stage of the game where split pushers like Sett become a bigger problem since you need someone to constantly match them. In this case I have Yon, so that's his job. But in another game, if there's nobody else, Aurora can do a good job at it, but of course, she still prefers to team fight. If you have someone better at side laning and they are willing to listen, communicate it to them. As we were waiting for the opponents to make a move on the map, the Nunu did this. On the other side of the map though, the enemy mid and top laner found the pick on Yone. We had to make sure that didn't go unpunished. But Sett did a very good teleport to escape and eventually get another tower in bot lane, which was honestly a bit annoying for us. After Autocon, the next step is figuring out our lane assignments once again. With my teleport being up soon, I can technically be anywhere, so catching side waves is not an issue. And that's exactly what I end up doing for a while. One thing I want to point out here is I went plated steel caps because the enemy team primarily has physical damage, and armor is very good against unavoidable point and click one like Zed. But yet again, surprise surprise, my Yone gets caught and my Wukong is looking to salvage it, so I use my teleport to cover him. Honestly, the fight was looking promising at the very beginning, but it quickly flipped into an unwinnable one, so I did what Aurora's best, and that's escaping. The enemy Nautilus though really wanted to get me, but actually ended up dying in the process. On my next reset, I had an interesting choice between getting a native with large rod or a Magi. Since my arm guard still wasn't used, I went with the more damage variant. Immediately as I get back on the map, somebody from my team, I will not name who, gets caught. Me and the rest of my team instantly run to the situation, and it's very important that I know what to do in this type of fight. Since I'm running late and I can't get a good execution on an enemy member, the next best thing is to play for a reset for my very reliable hyper carry, aka Jinx. Once she gets one takedown, it's a smooth breeze from there, even though the enemies were the ones making a catch on one of us. As long as the catch is not on someone more important like me or Jinx, our team comp is way too strong for the enemy team to win at this stage of the game. We took the tier 2 tower and went back making sure we don't bite more than we can chew, since in solo queue, greed is the fastest way to throw a game. And honestly, the rest of the game went as you would expect. We slowly worked our way on the other lanes and eventually got access to Baron Nashor. At this point, we're just looking to close it off with one last fight. I make sure to stay on the map and constantly be ready for anything. I start pinging my team to step up while I shadow them, since that's the exact formula I want to follow for the best odds of succeeding. Notice how I use my W to the side so the opponent MF doesn't notice I'm looking to specifically assassinate her. And yeah, once they lose someone at the very beginning, there was no hope for the opponents to win this fight. We ended up hunting everyone down and finished the game. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and any subscription, likes, and comments are welcomed. Also, a link to our community Discord server is down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.